Welcome. One of my favorite artists, Sigur Rós, with great music. The question I have is, this is just water. That was not my question. No. What is extraordinary? And we're going to be asking that all weekend long. Is everybody extraordinary? Is every moment extraordinary? Surely, not all moments could be extraordinary, right? You need to compare and contrast it to ordinary. And at least that's what we're programmed to do, right? Well, there's some quotes from, well-recognized books, well-respected books that say, there are no ordinary moments. That comes from The Peaceful Warrior. If there are no ordinary moments, that means every moment is extraordinary? So that's a good question. And here's another quote that literally says, it's very blunt, there isn't any such thing as an ordinary life. Well, that means that your life is literally, has to be extraordinary, right, by default? So we're going to ask these questions because all our speakers here are merely just extraordinary people. That's why they're invited to talk about what they do, what they are here to share. And it's really exciting. And one of my heroes, Steve Prefontaine, a runner, went to University of Oregon. He wrote this elegant quote, "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift." So what does that mean? Your best is simply a gift. That's all you can do. So if you sell yourself short and don't give it your best, then you're not being extraordinary at that point. So as I sit here, is this moment extraordinary compared to me sitting in my room, heartbroken, or having a toothache, or just bored and doodling? Here I am with amazing people right now, but this moment is no more extraordinary than any other moment, because if you saw that video, it's always changing. What's common with every single moment, it is simply the moment, and it's existing and then ceases to exist, and it's always changing and evolving. So I want to welcome you to Bonfire Heights' 3rd annual event. We brought a piece of the venue, of the nature that we're around, onto the stage, as you can see, except for some of the hay I got from pumpkin patches closing because Halloween is over, so I got a good deal on them. I said this last year, and I'll say it again, God forbid that your cell phone reception doesn't work. And God forbid that you might get bitten by something. If it's like smaller than a thumb, whoever bites you, you shouldn't be worried about it. If it's bigger than that, is there a doctor in the house? Other thing is, this might sound silly, but it's really not. God forbid you see deer out in the field doing a synchronized dance, and with their little hooves, just doing a little hoppy-roo, and it could happen because this actually happened a couple weeks ago. They caught it on film. I don't know if you guys saw this. This was down the street. So, if you happen to see the dancing deer, just ever so slightly video it, but keep a steady hand.
Okay. On your mark, ready, set, let's go. Dance, go, grow. I know, you know.
No. Now, let's talk about extraordinary, because is every moment extraordinary? I want to talk to you about this experience I had with Vipassana, 10-day meditation. So it is simply this complete silence and meditation. No communication, no music, no yoga, no writing, no reading, nothing. And if that could be extraordinary, anything could be extraordinary, right? So the whole point, I'm not going to get into the history of Vipassana or the philosophies of it. It's just mind over matter. It is very challenging to sit there for 10 days and not do anything. All of a sudden, the days become very long when that happens. And you feel every second and every moment. And on the second day, second very long day, you know how you have an aha moment? I had a oh shit moment. Because I realized how challenging this was going to be. 2 days was very, very challenging. Five times of that was, to me, unrealistic. So the first thing that came to my mind, first reaction, was how can I take a shortcut on this? Because in life we always want to take shortcuts. And I came to realize that there's no shortcuts here. I thought, well, if I could get to the 8th day, somehow get to the 8th day, skip from 2 to 8, I could handle it psychologically because I could finish 8, 9, and 10 and go home, right? But that 8th day wouldn't come until the 3rd day's sun rose. You're fully alert. You work diligently. And you may feel happy that day, and then the sun goes down. The 8th day's sun, or 8th day won't come until the 4th day's sun rises. And you're fully alert. You work diligently. And it's raining that day, and the sun goes down. The 8th day won't come until the 5th day's sun comes up. You're fully alert, you work diligently, and then you're happy that day, and the sun goes down. The 8th days won't come until the 6th day. Are we on the 6th day now? Yeah. Sun comes up, you're fully alert, you work diligently, and you're a little sad that day. Sun goes down. The 8th days won't come until the 7th day sun comes up. You're fully alert, you work diligently, and the sun goes down, and then the 8th day finally arrives. And then the 10th day, 9th day, and then the 10th day. And what I learned from that is a very, very valuable lesson. Gokna, the Vipassana, very world-renowned Vipassana teacher, said it very well. Diligently, patiently and persistently, bound to be successful, And that's what it takes, literally every single day. And what I really learned from that is you can't intellectualize everything. You have to feel it. So one could say, you know what? 2 days, got it. You know what? I gotta go. I have deadlines to meet. My screaming kids. I gotta go back to work. You know what? I'm a fast learner. I see what you guys are doing. I took really good notes. I'm gonna apply this to my life. I promise you. But hey, I love what you guys are doing. But 2 days, hey, I gotta go. That 8 days, it's not for me. That doesn't work, right? That's intellectualizing things, and I've done that a lot in my life, is just intellectualizing. But when you actually feel it and experience it, whole different scenario. That's why there's no ordinary moments, because we're always feeling something. We're always having sensations that are always ever changing. The second thing I learned, I obviously had to learn something from these 10 days, right? Otherwise, it's been a waste of time. So you can't fight it. So when you sit there for 1 hour meditation, again, oh shit moment, 1 hour, I have to sit here. I mean, I did it several times a day for 10 days straight. My first thing to do was to fight it. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, count to 60. I'll do that 5 times, that's 5 minutes. And then I'll do maybe some rocking back and forth. Come on, 1 hour, come on, you know? So you can't do that. It makes it so much harder. What I learned is you gotta just ease into it, accept it, just become one with the moment. And that hour becomes so pleasant. You're literally just in the moment, feeling your sensations that are always ever changing. And I did it. 10 days. Yes, it was so good for my mind. I was so proud of myself. This was the hardest thing I've ever done for my mind, is mind over matter. So I was kind of in celebration mode. You gotta be careful of that, because that's where ego comes in. You can't just celebrate these things. So I did really good for my body as well. I ate vegetarian, more or less fasted. You can't eat after 12 p.m. So it was pretty cleansing for my body as well. So, you know what, the 11th day, you know what my mind body asked me on the 11th day? What have you done for me lately? How dare my body and mind ask me that? 10 days I worked so diligently, and it's asked me, what have you done for me lately? So what that tells me is that every day is changing. Tomorrow, you're going to be slightly healthier or less healthy than you are today. Tomorrow, there'll be even more trash or less trash in the ocean than today. Tomorrow, more people or less people eat more Kentucky Fried Chicken. Every day is changing. So every day you're responsible for what you do. So you have to be, are you going to be on an upward spiral, or are you going to be on a downward spiral? So we are the change agents, and I thought, what else is important in our day-to-day, because everything is all about, there's so many distractions out there, right? Make the money, advance your career, follow the latest trends. A lot of easy distractions. Very hard. As Americans, it's a miracle not to be distracted. It's very hard for us. So I thought, what are activities that we do that are very mindful, that create balance in our life? I don't know, gardening, growing your own vegetables rather than buying it from the store. Of course, buying it from the store is a lot easier, but if you grow it yourself, obviously there's benefits to that. Reading a book rather than watching a movie creates, good visualization in your head. Maybe sewing. I don't sew. Rather than buying from the store, making your own clothes. There's a clear difference here. You're part of the process. You're becoming one in the moment, and that's very important. Early in my career, like my early 20s, I was constantly, what am I going to do for my resume? What can I need to buy investment properties. I need to do this. I need to do that. I was 22 years old, bought my first investment property, and then 23, I was freaking out because I don't have a second investment property. And then, it went out of hand, and then it all came crumbling down anyway, because I didn't do it patiently and diligently. So I learned my lesson there. And I told my friend, life is like Monopoly. You're acquiring, you're moving this, you're transacting, you're negotiating. And I realized, and I said it very proudly, life is like the game of Monopoly. And I loved the game of Monopoly. I love the transactions. I love the aggression of being aggressive and being strategic. Then I watched this very great documentary from the Zeitgeist. And it has a little 3-minute segment about the game of Monopoly. But it gave me a different perspective of the game of Monopoly. And we're going to go ahead and watch that for about 3 minutes to get a perspective. I was going to go ahead and explain it myself, but this is done really well.
Government's plan to avoid defaulting on its loan.
The unemployment keeps rising, and it has to keep rising just because you cannot have excess supply of goods, which is all borrowed money that are...
And that debt is owed by banks in other countries.
Cigarettes, it delivers the taste, and I
first learned it from my grandmother. Now, my grandmother was a wonderful person. She taught me how to play the game Monopoly. She understood that the name of the game is to acquire. She would accumulate everything she could, and eventually she became the master of the board. And then she would always say the same thing to me. She'd look at me and she'd say, "One day, you'll learn to play the game." One summer I played Monopoly almost every day, all day long. That summer, I learned to play the game. I came to understand the only way to win is to make a total commitment to acquisition. I came to understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer, I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, now it all goes back in the box. All those houses and hotels. All the railroads and utility companies. All that property. And all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. None of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come and players go. Houses and cars. Titles and clothes. Even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads? Surely you understand. It'll never be enough. So you have to ask yourself the question, what matters?
So when will a thrill wear off? Is that happiness? Are we chasing happiness? Are we fundamentally happy? As you see, all the pieces will go back into the box. So what are we doing? Do we have our blinders off? So we are part of the process. So if we go to the store and buy packaged meat at Safeway, we're part of that process. We're at the end of that process. We're at a consumption point, but there is a conception point at the beginning. So it's very hard as Americans because we are consumers and we're at the very tip of the process, and we're not part of the beginning. So we don't know what's going on. What's going on with the cows? What are they putting in those cows? Where are they housing them? Where are they pumping them up with? So it's easy to have our blinders on at that point. So it's up to us to understand, where are we? Where is it coming from? And don't think for a second that democracy is voting every 4 years at the ballot box. That's very passive thinking. Because whether you like it or not, you're voting every day with your behavior and your dollars. Are you voting for your local farmer with your dollar? Are you voting for more plastic Are you voting for McDonald's, factory farms? What are you voting for? Just because you're not part of the process, you didn't abuse animals or manage sweat factories, whatnot. I mean, I don't want to go into, I'm not accusing anything. I'm just saying, just because you're not part of that doesn't mean you're not guilty of it, because you're voting for it with your final consumption. So we're at a very, very powerful place, because we could easily shift that, because we are the final consumer. We could easily shift that. But we're also a very dangerous place, because we have our blinders on. So it's easy not to be part of it. So we vote every day. If everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there'd be peace. That's a vote. That's you. What are you asking for? I'm not going to show the next video. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I want to prove to you that democracy is by nature. It's very natural. Democracy, voting at the ballot, is made up. It's political. But by nature, we're in a democracy. The red deer, they did a study. The scientists thought, they assumed, it's very delicate what the red deer have to do as a herd. They have to decide to eat vegetation and then at a certain point go to the watering hole to get water. That's a very tough choice to make, because first of all, they need to make sure everyone eating is well fed, and they have to make sure there's no predators, so it has to be safe at the same time. They always thought that the alpha deer is the one that made that decision and then followed. But after investigation, they found that it was pure democracy at its purest form. That if there were 100 deer, once the 51st deer looks over to the watering hole, that momentum starts going over there. And that's how we are, as humans. What are we doing? Are we a society of valuing education, environment? We're voting every day with our behavior, what we do. So what we do with our individual life translates to our society, who we are as a society. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So what Bonfire Heights is about is having these conversations, right? We're having these conversations because these conversations get people to think and to act and to change their behaviors. It's slow, but we're making steps. Look at history. Look how we went from interracial marriage to being accepted, to gay marriage to be accepted. It's a process. It's an evolution, and we're all part of it. Don't wait for leaders to do it alone. Person to person. That's what we're doing today, person to person, right? Mother Teresa. So I'm going to go to the ballot box and vote for president, blah, blah, blah. Take care of it, right? Doesn't work like that. Your hands are not cleaned off by going to the ballot box, and you're not being a patriot by doing that, So what I welcome you guys to have these conversations. We have really, really interesting very important social issues that we're going to go over this weekend. And what makes this conference very unique is that we go over these important social issues, but with a personal story behind it. Because behind every social issue, there needs to be that personal story behind it. Because that personal story is what drives the activism to make these changes, to be the change agent. So we are grateful to hear these extraordinary people. These are people who recognize their talents, because we're all extraordinary, but these are ones that acted on their extraordinaire. And they're doing something about it. And we're going to listen to them and have these conversations, and this is part of the change. So thank you so much, and you guys are going to have a great weekend. Thank you.